Hi, it's Mr. Tush here. We're going to do a little bit of a screen presentation about how to pick your app and kind of brainstorm your project. So at the end of this, you'll have a better idea of how to maybe narrow down your project and make sure it meets the requirements. So this is about create number 2, or the final create that you're going to submit to the College Board. And it is based on the guidelines given directly from the College Board right here. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be quoting this word for word and highlighting what's here. So you might want to have the document in front of you and a pencil or some kind of a highlighter, because I'm going to highlight text for you. So the first thing we're going to take a look at is the overview. That's this section here called overview. What you should have in front of you is that handout, and you can go to mrtush.com to get that handout. Now, programming. Now, we'll talk about what programming is. It's a big paragraph, but here's the things to pay attention to. In this performance task, you will be developing a program of your choice. And it says you'll be iteratively designing, implementing, and testing your program. Iteratively designing is a cycle of prototyping, testing, analyzing, and refining. In other words, you put together a pseudocode, you code it, you test it and see if it works, you analyze what works and what didn't, and go back, make changes, and do it again. It's a cycle, and that's what they're expecting. You are strongly encouraged to work with one other person. I cannot emphasize this enough. The most successful students in this process work with someone. I'm not saying you absolutely have to work with someone else, but I'm telling you right now that that is the ticket to success. Work with someone else, peer develop. It is a huge important thing, particularly with the complexity of the program you're about to write. Now, first, write pseudocode. I'm going to say this over and over again. You will get stuck unless you write pseudocode. If you sit there and just try to program the entire thing straight into App Inventor, you will get stuck. If you don't pseudocode and figure out where your logic goes, you won't know what to put in. This is a complicated app that you're going to have to write just to meet the standards of the task. Now, once it's been assigned, you are expected to complete it with minimum assistance from anyone other than your collaborative peer. What that means is you are not allowed to ask me for help. I cannot help you. You will be given 12 hours of class time, and that will be guaranteed. And you have to submit 3 things. You have to do a video of your program running, and then you have to do individual written responses and program code. The project is due Thursday, April 26th by 11:59 p.m. You have to submit it all to the College Board, as you know. It has to be done by then. You have 9 classes starting Thursday, and the project is due on April 26th. Now, it requires you to develop a program on a topic that interests you or solves a problem. So find something that's interesting to you, because you're going to spend a lot of time with this. You have to iteratively design, implement, and test your program. And again, you will provide the written responses. It's a cycle. Do a little piece, test that it works. Do the next little piece, test that it works. And you will have to submit your code itself. And there's a couple different ways. We'll go over it in different videos on how that works. But the program code is going to be a big issue. Now, I strongly recommend, they strongly recommend, and I strongly recommend that you collaborate with another student in the class. It is going to have to also involve a significant amount of independent work. So while you develop the program together, you will write the program, or write your write-ups individually. So you develop the program together, and then person A has their own submission, person B has their own submission. The other thing to realize is that you're going to have to take credit individually for at least one nested algorithm, and so will your partner. And then there'll be algorithms you can work on together. This is going to be a big program. Now the requirements are going to have to include an algorithm that integrates 2 or more algorithms. We called this nested algorithms in class. That was a big deal we talked about. The reason I made a big deal out of it is because this is where this matters. And then you're going to have to develop an abstraction. That means a procedure in App Inventor, pretty much. An abstraction manages the complexity of the program. That might be something like a repeated task or something like that. So make sure you're thinking in those terms. You have to, 3 things: create a video, and then write the responses to all the prompts, and that's individual write-ups. You will have to do an individual write-up. There's no pair write-ups, individual write-ups. And then you will have to submit your entire program code. And we'll get into exactly how that looks in different videos. But again, everything is submitted individually. There is no group things going on. Your program has to do, well, there's a bunch of things it has to do here. Your program must demonstrate a variety of capabilities and implement several different language features that, when combined, produce a result that cannot be easily accomplished without competing tools and techniques. In other words, your program has to do something that people can't do just on their own without the computer. It has to be something a little different. And then your program should use math and logical concepts. So they're expecting to see both math and logic blocks. That's what that means. Math and logic blocks. They're also looking for variables, so make sure that you've included variables in there. And of course, math and arithmetic operators and Boolean operators, these are all the different pairs and greater than, less than logic operators that we've used right along. None of this is new. Your program must demonstrate math and logical concepts. They expect math and logic blocks. Make sure you understand that. Implementation of an algorithm that integrates two or more algorithms and integrates math and or logical concepts. So they expect nested algorithms. Each person must develop one nested algorithm independently, and the nested algorithm must include math or logic blocks. Understand three things in that statement. It's amazing how the small ones have the most complexity. They expect nested algorithms. Each person must develop one nested algorithm independently, and the algorithm must include math or logic blocks. It also must demonstrate the use of abstractions. So make sure there is a clearly marked procedure, and you have to demonstrate how it manages complexity. Be sure that it's got all of that. Now, I'm going to jump ahead. So we're going to jump ahead to preparing. So I'm going to actually skip through the submission requirements and get over to preparing for the Explore task right in here. All right? We're jumping ahead. This is going to be page 7 on your handouts. All right? Now, today, and as you get ready to work, brainstorm a problem that you can address with your app. So what's a problem you can address, or any special interests you have? I'm going to warn you up front that complex gaming programs and games that are just plain games require a great deal of development in the area of variables and Boolean logic that you have not studied in your first year of programming. Those high-end games that exist on apps and mobile phones are programmed by people who are fairly sophisticated and fairly advanced. Make sure that you understand the iterative process, and this is a huge thing. Pseudocode it, code it, test, analyze, do it again. Do it one piece at a time. That's what we're talking about here. And I just blocked it a little bit, but brainstorm with your partner and make sure that you pseudocode, code, test, analyze, do it again. Pseudocode, code, test, analyze, do it again. Now, be ready to prepare to collaborate with your peers and as necessary and in different ways. Don't do this alone. You just can't do it with my help, but don't do it alone. Analyze program code and explain its function. That's a huge issue. When you write your code at the end of this, you have to explain what it does. I still occasionally get write-ups that say, well, this is my code. It controls everything. The College Board won't accept that. They need you to explain this segment of code uses this event handler to use this if-then statement, which evaluates this variable against that variable, blah, 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 blah. You have to explain how the logic works. Very important. Now, knowing how to keep a programming journal. I'm telling you right now, if you don't write this down, you will struggle. So make sure you write this down. I have no other way to warn you on this. Write this stuff down. Please, please, please. And you're going to need that journal because then you're going to, as you're working, 27 steps down the process, you're going to have to remember what you did back at step 2 to understand why step 27 works or doesn't and to be able to debug it. Now, make sure, too, that the algorithm was part of the integration of 2 or more algorithms. So that's the nested algorithm piece. And a program functions differently with the inclusion of algorithms and abstractions. So in other words, I wrote this nested algorithm, and this is what it does for the program and why it functions with it better than without it. So why your algorithm makes the program better. The inclusion of an abstraction that has made the program more compact, readable, or reusable, and how the program would operate differently without the abstraction. In other words, talk about your procedures and how it made things better or simpler. What your abstraction does, your procedure, what it does, and how it makes things better or simpler. Be sure you understand that. And then, of course, get the programming support that was necessary while practicing the skills needed for this performance task. Well, friends, that was everything in this class from August till now. You have to develop this on your own now. I'm letting you leave the nest. That is your job right now. But that's everything we've been doing from August to today. I wish you the best of luck. Obviously, I will be here to help you with that. Now, here's how the things you must do. Be aware of the timeline. As you know, April 26th is the deadline. Use everything you've learned in this course. If you use pieces of program code for program code that is not your own, make sure that you cite it. And we'll go over how in a different video. And allow your interest to drive the program. You're going to be spending a lot of time working on this program. So make sure it's something you're pretty interested in. Otherwise, you're going to be, a little boogie. So make sure you've done all of that. Now, follow a timeline. Keep working. Don't put it off to the last minute. This is hours and hours and hours. The 12 hours of computer time that we give you in class isn't nearly enough. Clarification. Let me explain what clarification means. I can clarify the task instructions. I cannot help you with your program write-up. That's the difference. If you're not sure what that expectation is, I can go over what the expectation is. I cannot look at your program code. I cannot help you with your program code. I'm not allowed to see your program code. I can ask, or I can go over what AP expects of you. I cannot go over your code itself. I can have a conversation with you about your choice of topics on this one. This is actually a little different from when we picked the Explore task, because I can talk you through a little bit of how your software app is going to, whether it would be a good choice or not. I can also solve the problem, so that's something I can do, what the app will be about and its limits. I can also help if the workstation fails. So if you don't know how to use AZ Screen Recorder, I can help you with AZ Screen Recorder. If the Mac crashes, I can help you get a new Mac or find a different computer in the room. Those are things I can help with. I cannot help you with your code. I cannot look at your code. I cannot run your code. That's something I cannot do. And then I can also help you make your groups. So the formation of your groups, your pairs, is something I can help with. I can also help if there's a group conflict. So if you're partway through this and your partner's not helping, I can go back and help with that. If you do use code like other APIs, like if you remember when we did the map tour and we used the Google API, you have to acknowledge that in other pieces of open source code. You can use that. And yes, you can use others' code to extend your project. But just make sure that the core algorithms, the event handlers, the procedures, the core things that run your program, that has to be original to you. If you're extending the program beyond that, you've met all the requirements, but you really want it to be at this next level, you can use some borrowed code if you cite it properly. That will work, but make sure that you are writing your own core code. If you just put up a project with code you took off the web from someone else's project, you will be rejected. So make sure that you're writing your own source code and only borrowing code to extend the capacity or the capabilities of your project. Things you may not do. The video, the written responses, those are individual work, no exceptions. You must have your own work. Nobody else can correct it by another individual, with the exception of the cited program code. So if you bring in somebody else's code, you do have to cite that. And then finally, you may not use anything from Create One. Okay? They're very clear about that. And you cannot provide any feedback from me on your prompts. Now, I understand you and your partner will be discussing things together as far as, okay, now I developed that and you developed this, and there's going to be a lot of collaboration in how you develop your code. That's fully expected. But when you put your prompts together, there is no assistance or feedback from me in terms of answers to those prompts. I hope that helps. Best of luck, and you can go ahead and start brainstorming your task now. Thanks for watching.